Okay, it is Thursday, March 20th at 7:01 p.m. I will call this meeting of the Cecil Township Planning Commission to order. Boom. Okay, first up is the approval of minutes from February 20th, 2025. Did everybody get a chance to review them?
Yes.
Dave, I'm sure
Yes,
you
I
reviewed them.
did, yes. Thank you.
Very nice job, Dave.
And I did make that correction that you had asked for.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 27th, 2025.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. King, any review of previous decisions of which we should be made aware or forthcoming decisions to be made?
With respect to the BOS, recent BOS meeting, there's 3 items that were approved that planning reviewed. The cluster housing, removal of cluster housing subdivision designation from the UDO, Hope Learning, which we talked about last time, and Steel Town Plan Residential were all adopted by the Board of Supervisors at their last meeting.
Thank you. Is there any old business we need to be made aware of that is pending? Okay. So new business. Application 2025-0003, Freed Taylor, Plan of Lots, which Gateway was kind enough to send a letter on. Anybody have any questions?
Dan, any of these comments from the letter game changers?
You know, we got this plan a little bit late, and I got my letter out just today. There's nothing here. It's just a simple lot line revision, and it's a new surveyor. I haven't seen him submit the town before. I'm familiar with this guy in other places, but first time he submitted here. So it's really just some cleanup stuff. So I don't have any problem if, you know, I wouldn't be afraid to recommend approving it. We'll just make sure the revisions get taken care of before it goes to the supervisors. It's about as simple a plan as it gets. No sewage involved, it's all public sewers. It's the old, and this came to us as a site plan because we had that Freed site plan. If you recall, to the right, they did a bunch of, they were gonna do a bunch of work on that. I don't think they ever started that, Jack, did they?
Not to my knowledge.
No,
I know Liz was involved with it somewhat, but John just dropped it off, basically.
And then this, it looks like the encroachment is pretty close. I mean, the house on the left, currently the property line is within a couple feet of the building. So they're gonna get a fairly good side yard setback with the change of that property line. So it just cleans it up a little bit.
I'm good. Does anybody else have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, do we have a
No.
motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve application 2025-5-0003, the Freed Taylor Plan of Lots, contingent upon addressing the items in the Gateway Engineers letter dated March 20th, 2025.
I'll
Se-
second.
Anything you wanted to say?
I'm Mark Hummel. I'm the owner of Arpenter Survey. The reason behind this is Jonathan and I can't think of Mr. Taylor's name.
John.
Jonathan and John. That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
He had it so that you actually exited, like you discussed, how close it was on that one residence there. The porch was actually on Jonathan Freed's property. So he came and said, we need to clean this up for liability purposes. And that's all this really is about liability. So that way, when they exit their property there, they're not going on to Jonathan's property. So if he doesn't have to do maintenance on the steps, he doesn't have to do cleanup, anything like that. So that's what this is all about. So thank you very much for your consideration.
My comments today? Yes. Okay, great. Late today when I got back. You can clean those up before the supervisors meeting? Right. When's the supervisors meeting?
First Monday of the month, so it's April 7th.
Oh, Tuesday. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Just for the board's knowledge, Arlene Curry is an institution in Cecil. She has been postmistress for years, been on really involved in Parks and Recreation. She's currently at Premier, and she is on dialysis and that type of thing. So I've known her. She's known me my entire life, and I certainly understand. I'm just kind of adding more understanding to the situation. I believe she's been there most of her life in that building, and this is the one right down here close to the post office. So.
Thanks, Jack.
Yes, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. I think under ordinances and amendments and discussion, we've got something similar. So before we do that, is there any correspondence or announcements we need to be made aware of? Is there a determination on when the zoning hearing board will reconvene? I believe that was pushed back.
Tentatively scheduled now for the next zoning hearing board, a regular monthly meeting, which would be April 21st. And that's all I can say at this point.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Mr. Dizeroth, do you have anything you want to share with us? Okay. On that, as far as you know, on that note, we did receive from the solicitor a lengthy ordinance for the oil and gas ordinance with 9/2011 and 9/2024 amending and revising the following. And Lauren Anderson had been kind enough to provide some thorough comments in advance that are written, and I appreciated all of those. Is there anything, Mr. Coldren, that you wanted to add?
I think the biggest thing remains the setback issue. I really don't have a strong opinion either way. So, yeah, I think see where the discussion goes.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like to add?
I guess.
Sorry. I guess I'd just like to state for the record that we did receive this 2 days before our February meeting with very little direction on what exactly we were supposed to be reviewing this amended ordinance, and I was appreciative that we received a copy of it in track changes, so it was good to see what was updated, but there was very little direction on what exactly, or at least honing us into what exactly we were to be looking at or providing feedback or comments on. So I took that as direction to review the entire document, which is the written comments that I provided in advance and that everybody has a copy of. A lot of my comments still kind of remain from the first few versions that we've seen, even the approved version related to sourcing definitions that are industry related. If they were crafted or lifted from some place, we need to note that so that they are defensible I think a lot of what I have concerns with the ordinance is there's a lot of technical language in here that needs to really be buttoned down of where it came from so that it is defensible. I still have concerns on going back to, you know, uh, when you receive a conditional use approval from the township for you know, a number of wells on a well pad, that at least according to the revisions of the ordinance, you have to, if you choose to re-stimulate an existing well or well that has already been approved, you have to come back and get a new conditional use approval. That's new. Certainly, that's problematic in my mind as far as, you know, the level of effort that you would have to go to get reapproval for something that you already have approval for. Throughout the document, I think that there's additional homework that needs to be done on what's required at the state level. That language needs to be, you know, really synced up with state requirements. I think we mentioned that before. Certainly, the setback is problematic. The stopping and starting operationally with the hours, especially during hydraulic fracturing and drilling, you know, create, in my mind, safety issues that could be avoided. But without going into a lengthy, you know, conversation and reiterating the written comments that I have, I mean, those are my my biggest issues. But really, you know, the thing that that I'm struggling with is finding what our place is and to assist the township in providing some support in this effort or in where we're going with this when we receive these documents to look at and review.
Yeah, I would almost rather have an either or from the township. Yeah, because it is hard to understand exactly what they're looking for. Jack, so this is on the Board of Supervisors' agenda to act on in April.
They will be considering it at the April 17th.
Okay, so this is basically our last chance to get them comments.
Until they consider it, you can give them comments up until the meeting time.
Sure.
I will say thank you to Lauren again for creating the extensive list of comments that you provided, written already. The definitions, the sourcing of the definitions particularly, is something that we have already addressed. I do also have an issue with the idea of having a new conditional use application for a well when it's already been approved, because I don't believe we do that with housing developments. They might come in 8 phases and we don't make them do a new approval for each phase. We do our best to, I believe, work with the developer. And I would think that would be the same thing that you would do with a conditional use approval for a well.
Christie, if they came in with individual phases of
Yes.
construction, they do come in every time a developer does.
If they come in with individual phases,
Right.
yes. But if they come in and say, hey, we're going to do this, we don't know when we're going to do these things down the road, so they kind of just leave it open-ended sometimes.
Okay, I'm just,
That's what I've seen. Am I wrong? It's okay if I am.
no, I mean, with a subdivision plan, like a large subdivision plan, like McConnell Trails,
Mm-hmm.
they get an overall approval, and then
Mhm.
they have to come in with each individual phase and get their construction plans approved for that phase. They don't have to come back and do it twice.
They don't have to do a conditional use approval twice.
Right, but yeah. No, you're right.
So they do, I mean, understandably, it's a good thing to say, hey, let's come back in, let's have a discussion. Like, we know this has worked in the past and this hasn't worked. But if you have approval, it shouldn't be, you have approval and now we're going to make you get approval again and again and again every time that you do it, as opposed to what you're saying as far as here's the construction plan, here's our intention. And I think that's a reasonable thing to do. the same. I know they're two totally different things, but I also know people feel very strongly about each of them, one way or the other, and to be respectful of where somebody is frustrated or inconvenienced or not a fan or whatever phrasing is used, versus being able to develop the land as you see fit in a way that is honoring to the township, and reasonable conditions. I just don't think that having multiple conditional uses for the same site is a good idea.
I would agree with that, especially for wells that were already part of the approval of the pad. Like if they said we're going to drill 8 wells, hydraulically fracture them as part of our conditional use approval, and then, we're getting technical. So in some instances, you do have to come back and re-stimulate a well to get it going, and producing, and you do have the right to produce it. So we're not talking about drilling new wells on that pad that haven't been yet approved. So I want to distinguish between the package of wells that's approved initially with the conditional use plan. Those wells are able to be developed regardless if they have to come back and hydraulically fracture a well. And I think that ties into the last point that I wanted to make, and we've made this point before. State earth disturbance permits with the Pennsylvania DEP also relate to their well permits, are good for 5 years, can be renewed once for a 12-month period of time if you need to. The proposed township ordinance it reduces this window of opportunity to develop to 2 years under the grading permit and the conditional use approval, so the two don't match up. You could make the argument that maybe that's not fair because they're still operating under an existing state permit for earth disturbance, but yet they would have to come back to the township, maybe twice within that 5-year period, maybe 3 times if they got an extension. So I think those things need to flange up.
Yeah, and I agree with those 3 items. The definitions need cleaned up, need to be based on state definitions, the no new conditional use application, and the permit being valid for 5 years. I think those are easily justified.
And the other item, and I think we've seen and heard about this, are spill notifications. The state, and we commented on this before, the state requires a spill that is in excess of 5 gallons that leaves containment on the well site to be reported immediately. Those are reportable spills that stay on containment or are less than 5 gallons do not have to be reportable to the Pennsylvania DEP. The way that this ordinance is structured is they're categorized into emergency and non-emergency spills, which is nebulous to me because they're not defined. I think a simple fix would just be to do what the state requires on reportable and non-reportable spills that's in regulation.
That makes sense as well. And I also want to second what you had said, Dave, about setbacks. I think what we had mentioned before, and in understanding what people have expressed as concerns, the 1,000 and then 2,500 for protected structures was something that was addressing the concerns while still allowing development to move forward. So that's my thought.
Yeah, and I think that it's those 5 key or main topics.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't recall how the Planning Commission submitted those comments to the township prior.
They were part of the minutes. They were part of
Okay.
the minutes, and so they were considered for supervisors to be able to review the draft of the minutes prior to their next meeting where they were considering the previous ordinance that was approved in September.
Was there a separate letter also drafted by us?
I
Do you
don't
recall?
believe so.
No? Okay, it
just
was all in the
minutes.
minutes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, I fully support those 5.
And I would
Comments?
generally agree that if one of the versions of the ordinance that we did see did have those increased setbacks, 1,000 foot and 2,500 foot from schools and hospitals, I generally support that. If we're going to, make some sort of a reasonable effort to listen to the concerns of, the expressed concerns of some of the residents and still allow for development to occur where private mineral rights exist, the middle line seems to be, going above the 500 foot that's currently required, but then stopping short of the half mile and mile that we're at.
And the state
No.
regulation's 500 and 1,000?
Correct.
Yes, the state regulation has maintained that for quite some time.
Since 2012.
Yeah, so we're above and beyond with the 1,000 and
2,500
2,500.
foot. Yeah, that was our original, at least in the meeting minutes, that
Yes.
we supported that
Yep, I am good
version
with
of
that.
the ordinance. Yeah.
Is there anything else that we want to comment on with this for the supervisors, or would we prefer to leave those comments to individual members of the planning commission to submit to the board of supervisors? Outside of the 5 items that you had made mention of, Dave?
That would be my suggestion.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I fully intend to, and I've already obviously sent these to you and to Jack, but these are my individual comments in addition to the 5 that we generally agree on that will be part of our meeting minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
It is my intention to accumulate this and send it to not only Dawn, but also Gretchen for, once your comments are ready to go. If you want, unless you want to go directly, that's fine with me. I don't want to do.
I think it would be good for us to submit as a board for the meeting minutes, just as we had previously, prior to the September 2024. However, I'm just leaving it open for everybody to, if they have additional comments or things they feel particularly strongly about, they would like to communicate to the Board of Supervisors, to our solicitor, to our township and those who we serve, that they can do so individually as well.
Yeah, Jack, I don't have any problem with you forwarding on my comments to them. I don't plan on making any additional comments. Thank you.
And I'm assuming there's no issue with approved meeting minutes, because obviously these wouldn't be approved until after the April 7th.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's no issue. This
Well,
would be
it
a
would be-
draft,
It would be the
minutes.
draft. Yes, it would be the draft, which is what it was last time as well. To say in advance, and we had approved them virtually among each other to make sure that we all were in agreement with what was drafted.
Unless we have to do that before the 7th. I guess we could.
Well, I mean, you're usually relatively.
I'll have these out tomorrow. And you
Yeah.
guys can comment, and
We always do.
Okay.
That's why I was sitting there laughing. I'm like, because the
Yeah,
emails
they'll be
come.
ready tomorrow. We can have, we're missing Jason this evening, but you can
think
still
it's
review. And
reasonably early next week, and we can,
although I don't know if that involves advertising,
I don't.
I'm assuming a draft would be okay. Or I guess it would be a retroactively approving the minutes.
the general
I mean,
public.
do we need to have an actual meeting to approve?
I don't believe
minutes.
we have to have them approved if they're labeled as draft.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll submit our draft minutes.
But
Yeah,
as a courtesy
That has
to each
been reviewed
other-
by, yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to discuss or be aware of? I hope that we have some interest and that there's a 5th person interested in serving on the Planning Commission in the near future. Just to keep Dan on his toes.
If somebody wants to join us,
Okay.
promise we're not scary.
Okay. If there's nothing else, it is 7:25. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 7:26 now, technically.